She they put up her hand both.
Please keep your mic muted. Okay, thank you. All right, so my name is Nicole Lawrence, Development Officer for Zone 47 in Region 6. And we are gathered here this afternoon to commence training for public health as an requirement of the Early Childhood Commission, Early Child Act. But before we start, we're going to start off with prayer. Our presenters are here. And so I'm going to pray. Eternal God, my Father and friend, we want to thank you for this beautiful day that you have made. Thank you, Almighty God, for allowing us to be a part of this training. And God, as we gather here this afternoon, I pray that God, you will give us clearance across the internet, the airway. God, whatever is presented today, I pray that God, you may assist our presenters, dear Father, inspire them, give them strength. Oh God, a clear mind. God, our participants, dear Father, God, I pray that they will understand that which will be presented. And at the end of the day, oh dear God, we'll be able to implement it for the betterment of our young children. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your mercy as we look to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so our first presenter is Mr. Graham. He is a public health inspector in the parish of St. Catherine. And without any further ado, I'm going to share his first presentation. All right. All right, so this is his first presentation, and he'll be presenting on hand, foot, and mouth disease in our classrooms. So enjoy this afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I hope that you're enjoying good health and in this season of Lent that is about to end. We do hope that, as we get into, this week, that we'll be thinking about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who died on the cross so that all of us can be saved. So we are very, very thankful, that, he has done all of that for us. Yes, I'm just here to present to you on just two topics. I'll be pretty short, because normally I would be doing one, but I just want to touch on hand, foot, and mouth before I go on to COVID-19 also. So as you know, hand, foot, and mouth is still around. When COVID came on the scene, COVID did not replace anything. It only had to the multitude of illnesses that have been around. So hand, foot, and mouth has also been around, and schools have been affected here in St. Catherine. So we just want to remind ourselves, because it affects the young ones. Right? Yes, hand, foot, and mouth disease is a mild, contagious viral infection caused by the Coxsackie virus. Most common in childcare settings because of frequent diaper changes and toilet training, and because little ones often put their fingers in their mouths. So we see why it affects the young ones more than anyone else. So we are focusing on that for just a while. The virus usually clears up on its own within a few days, right? And medications are prescribed to reduce symptoms. Right? The child should be isolated from other children when he or she is infected. All right, so whenever this happens, teachers and all the caregivers must take quick action, because if quick action is not taken when it is identified, then the entire class and the entire school can be affected. Right? So it is very important that young children coming to school, that they are, that we observe them. Some schools may have a nurse or someone special have a look on them just to ensure that infected children do not attend. But, some schools may not have the luxury of one person, just focusing on that. Incubation period of hand, foot, and mouth, 3 to 6 days from initial infection to onset of signs and symptoms. So you see, it's quite quick, 3 to 6 days. A fever is usually the first sign of hand, foot, and mouth disease. And just like for COVID, we want to ensure that, a stay-at-home policy if a child is sick. Any fever, in fact, the fact that we are checking for COVID, and doing our temperature checks, that will also help in preventing, children suffering with hand, foot, and mouth from being admitted in schools. So we do hope that, that is being done so that children do not come in with, with their illness to affect other children. Common for children ages 5 and younger, as was mentioned, 5-year-old and younger are usually the ones that are affected. It can affect older ones also, but the younger ones are the more, mainly affected. And as mentioned here, over 200,000 cases per year occurs in the United States. That's a lot, right? We do not have figures here right now to speak to that in terms of our Jamaican experience, but this is something that, we need to look at to see the prevalence of hand, foot, and mouth in our parish and maybe in our country overall. Yeah, but this is something that we have to keep looking out for because it keeps occurring. Yeah, main sources of disease spread are saliva, similar to COVID, the mouth, and that's why we have to wear masks, with respect to COVID, right? So even though we are not masked, will help prevent the spread of hand, foot, and mouth, within schools. But we are not advocating that, that mask will become a permanent thing in school because, it also has its own disadvantage in wearing masks. All right, so the main sources of disease spread are saliva, right? Fluid from blisters, so blisters on the hands and the feet, fluid from it, can also affect others. Feces, as was mentioned, is a main source also of spread. Respiratory droplets sprayed into the air after coughing or sneezing. So that's one of the main ways that it is spread, right? Coughing and sneezing, because saliva will be escaping from the mouth and from the nose, mucus and so on. It can also be transmitted through direct contact with unwashed hands or a surface containing traces of the virus. So, disinfecting, things, disinfecting toys and table, desks and so on will help to curtail the spread. All right. So, because it is spread in a respiratory, it can be spread respiratorily, right? It is the control of it is similar to how you control COVID-19, right? Symptoms, the red rash on the palms without itching, but sometimes with blisters, soles, with blistering soles and sometimes the buttocks, right? So we have, hands and feet and mouth, are the main areas, but sometimes it can affect, the buttocks, and so on, right? So those blisters is very typical of hand, foot, and mouth, right? Feeling of being unwell, so observing the child, you can see the child not looking as vibrant, when they are affected, malaise takes over. Irritability in infants and toddlers, fever, poor appetite, sore throat, and headache. These are the symptoms, associated with hand, foot, and mouth disease. All right. So we need to look out for all of these among our young ones. All right. The good thing about hand, foot, and mouth is that it is usually a mild disease. Yeah? This is just a picture of showing the hands and feet that are affected, manifestation of hand, foot, and mouth disease, right? Rashes on the hand and on the feet, right? And as mentioned, they don't really scratch. Complications in everything, in every disease, there can be complications, right? And dehydration is one of the complications. Sore throat associated with disease condition makes it difficult to drink and eat. This can result in dehydration. If the child do not want to, to drink, because of this, the sores in the mouth, that can lead to problems. Right? But we do hope that, the child will get attention very quickly. Right? Infection, a sore throat can become infected with bacteria and, create complications, right? So that's, that can cause another issue, right? Common tests and procedures. The mouth, we need to examine the mouth, examination of the mouth for sores, blisters, or red rashes, right? Blood tests can be done also to confirm the presence of the virus within the blood, and also the stool can be tested, right? And to confirm presence of virus within the stool. Right? But normally the doctors, when they take the doctor, they can confirm it even without going through these tests. Yeah? Prevention, which is the important thing for early childhood institutions. Good hygiene, practice good hygiene. This is always the most important thing, right? And for affected children to remain at home, remain isolated from others. Right? Wash hands regularly, which is so common, also for COVID. Avoid sharing items such as toys, books, pencils, etc. Right? Similar with respect to COVID. And disinfecting the common areas. So anything, because it can be spread respiratorily, then it will, these methods will suffice. All right. So we want to just wanted to remind you of hand, foot, and mouth, that it is still around, although COVID has taken over the spotlight from all the other diseases. But thankfully, we are happy that COVID is on the decrease, but we still have to be careful because COVID is still around. All right. So any question before I go to the next presentation? Here's Nicole. Yes. Let me go to the next presentation. Let's stop sharing here. I'm going to the next presentation. Yeah, just stop sharing. Yeah, stop sharing.
Share screen.
Okay. Okay. What is what? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yes, welcome again. And as early childhood practitioners, it is so important, for us to protect our children, not just against hand, foot, and mouth, but against COVID. It has been mentioned earlier on, that, when it was first when COVID-19 was first introduced to the world, it was said that children were not at great risk, but we recognize that children, as time went on, we learned so much more about COVID. We have lost children in the process. Children became ill and all of that. And so we still have to continue to be vigilant to ensure that our children, can be protected. We are thankful that things are reached a stage where face-to-face has now returned. I mean, full face-to-face, and this is now also, creating a great opportunity, for the spread if we are not careful. So as much as we are glad for the full face-to-face, because children have been missing out so much, we are still concerned, that we keep it this way. It's going to be challenging because children are not easy to manage, especially when we have a lot of them together. All right, so let us move on. We will not be going through everything because this is so well known by now. We know about the symptoms already and all of that. We're not going to touch too much on that. We want to just focus on a few things, right? Let us just move along. You can all, I hope you all see the screen, right? I just want to look at the overall situation worldwide, right? We see here that the trend continued. The United States has been the leading in terms of total number of cases, confirmed cases, right? And also leading in the total number of deaths, right? A death rate of 1.23%. That means for every 100 persons that were affected, just a little over one person died, right? Or another way, out of every 1,000 persons, 12 persons died, right? India is next with 43 million cases, confirmed cases, and just over 500,000 deaths. While the USA was 82 million cases and just over 1 million deaths. Then comes third in line was Brazil with 30,210,853 cases, confirmed cases, with over 661,656 deaths. And when we come down to Jamaica, right? And I'll be sharing something about Jamaica that is alarming, right? We have total cases, confirmed cases in Jamaica, and this is up to April 13th. Today's the 15th, so this is just 2 days behind, 2 days ago, right? Up to April 13th, Jamaica had 129,108 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 2,919 deaths. And just to mention that the death rate here is higher, than US, India, and Brazil, because for every it's 2.26%, right? Or put another way, 22 persons die out of every 1,000. 22 are out of every 10,000. 226 die out of every 10,000. Because we can't say 0.2 or 0.6. Right? So when we look at the death rate here, the rate of dying in Jamaica from persons who have had COVID is higher than Brazil, it is higher than India, and it is higher than the United States, right? And it is higher than the overall average. The worldwide average is 1.96 or 196 person dying from every 10,000, right? And on the world scene, the total number of confirmed cases on the world scene was 501,811,743, with over 6,212,087 deaths. All right, so that is the statistics. So here in Jamaica, the death, our rate of death from persons who comes down with COVID has been, more than US, India, and Brazil. I am not really compared. I should have compared it with the other islands. I don't know what to compare. Maybe I should have done that to see how it compared with the other islands in the Caribbean. But that wasn't done. I want to compare it with the bigger cities. All right, let us move on because that's just information. All right. Let us bypass that. This information, and the overall clinical course of the disease was mild cases, was an average of 40% of persons who came down with COVID was mild, another 40% was moderate, 15% severe, and 5% critical. And most of the death came from the critical ones, critically ill persons. And as you know, a large number of infected persons were asymptomatic, but we have no statistics on that, what percentage was asymptomatic. Right? Only a test can reveal if you are infected. Right? And as you know, the Omicron variant has been found to be the most infective of all the variants, and that has really caused a lot of persons to become ill. All right, so asymptomatic may spread the virus unknowingly, while the mild ones, would stay at home and recover on their own. But all confirmed cases are to remain isolated for a minimum of 14 days. That has been the standard for isolation when persons were affected. Right? All right, and let us bypass this in terms of persons at risk for severe illness, children with chronic disease, such as asthma and sickle cell disease, were at greater risk. And, I guess we have lost few from that situation, and persons who are immunocompromised, right? But overall, adults in general, if they were comorbid, having hypertension, diabetes, chronic obstructive airway diseases or kidney disease, those persons, we have lost a lot of our senior citizens, from COVID, and which is very, very unfortunate. So we have lost a lot of wisdom, a lot of information that they could have passed on to the younger generation. We have lost them, some of them so suddenly. All right, so let's go quickly now to prevention protocols. The protocols remain basically the same, right? Although some relaxing of the disaster risk management is ongoing, and we should be hearing something more, maybe by tomorrow, more relaxation. But stay at home if you're ill. This will not change, and it's not just for COVID, but any illness at all. It's best to stay away so you don't spread it to others. So no matter what reduction comes in terms of disaster risk management, stay-at-home policy when ill remains the same. Observing, quarantine if you're exposed. Also, screening is continuous to be necessary, right? Use of masks, we'll be hearing more of that. Sanitize at entry, right? Sanitizing at entry is not just for COVID, it is also good for other illnesses also, right? Because other illnesses are still around and we can infect others. Strict control measures enforced, so we still want to maintain proper protocols. All right, so hand washing at school entrance is still recommended, right? Sanitizing is acceptable for hands, that are not soiled. If a hand is soiled, washing is the best thing. If your hands are dirty, sanitizing is not good enough, all right? Because the soil will just use up the sanitizer and you don't get to destroy the germs. Hand washing facilities with running water and liquid soap must be available at all hand wash stations. This remains critical for all institutions. All hand wash stations need to have, liquid soap and running water, right? I know some schools will prefer to apply to the children's hands and they go and wash in order that they do not waste it when they go into the bathrooms. But whatever method they use, we need to ensure that liquid soap and running water is available. And sanitizing stations are to be strategically located at entrances, the sick bay, canteen, and staff room, right? These have been recommended. And we continue to ask persons to do that. The ministry has now given permission for 6 feet to be reduced to 3 feet. That has been given long ago in order that more students can come face to face. And I know it has been a challenge for many schools because keeping children away from each other has been a challenge. But we need to still encourage them not to bundle too much and to play apart as much as is possible. But it's a challenge. Until there's a change in policy from the ministry, we still continue to recommend that children, continue to wear their mask, continue to take at least two masks to school so that they can have a change as necessary, right? Each person should have at least 2 cloth masks, change masks when moist or dirty, wash masks with soap and water, and allow to sun dry before reuse. This is still applying, and until there's a change in that policy. Here is just letting us know how to the level of protection that we receive from masks, right? A person that is wearing mask, will provide you, the person that is not wearing mask, right, will be protected, is 75% protected from the person that is wearing a mask, right? So the person that is wearing a mask, the mask that you wear is more helpful to the person that is not wearing a mask. You protect the person from your droplets, 75% protection. So if you are not wearing a mask, right, you still can infect the person that is wearing a mask, right? Because the rest of the face is exposed. So we see here that when both persons wear masks, the chances of spread is just 1.5%, very, very minimal. And that is one of the ways that we reduce the number of infected persons around us, right? When you wear a mask and the other person not wearing any, right, the chance of you infecting the person beside you is only 5% when you wear a mask, right? 5% chance of the person being affected by you when you are wearing a mask. So if worn properly, it can help to reduce transmission of COVID-19. But as I said, these policies may be changing soon. Screening. Allow time for screening before start of school, right? That means, if in order that, we do not reduce the teaching time too much, right? So if they encourage children to come to school early enough so that they can be screened and start their class on time, right? So allow time for screening before start of school. Should be tested in fairly cool environments. So when you're doing the test, right, the child may be feeling hot, maybe by walking and so on. So we need to test them. If the temperature is above, then we should allow them to cool down and then retest. And all abnormal readings should be logged with name line listing, right? In light of the reduced the reduction in the MRA, right? Logging those persons with high temperatures, will still remain, right? Still need to remain. Still need to log those persons. Persons with normal temperatures may not need to be logged because those will be normal, right? Temperatures of 99.8 degrees Fahrenheit or 37.5 Celsius, anything reaching that level and above, should be checked. That person should be rechecked because that's bordering on a fever, right? You need to retest after allowing person to cool off and determine if there is accompanying symptoms, right? So if the person is having a fever, we need to also look if there's other symptoms that is visible to your eyes. The child may just look sick and not just having a fever. Use of no-touch thermometer, which is the infrared thermometer that schools have been using. You just need to continue to use those. You have to avoid congregation at school gates, by having them streamlining, instead of bungling, they can form a line in order to avoid congregating. Right? Temperature checks at multiple points of screening. Schools sometimes have more than one thermometer, so more than one person can do the testing so that persons can move along quicker instead of just one person. Persons identified with fever should be referred to the school nurse or principal or designated. Well, a lot of early childhood institution doesn't have a school nurse, right? Teachers will have to, play multiple roles, in examining the children and all of that, in order that you protect the rest of students from those that may have symptoms. Decision taken based on second tier of evaluation, right? So we should not make a decision just on one test. You do the check and it is high, you don't make a decision there. You need to do another check or refer the child to someone else to follow in order to ensure that whatever decision that is made can be collaborated. Right? Cleaning and disinfecting, very important. Items or surfaces touched by many persons, made by many students, are to be disinfected frequently, such as door handles, rails, pipe tops, right? In order that we don't contaminate ourselves, right? Also, toys and those things. In fact, since COVID, the sharing of toys has been restricted, right? And children should keep their own toys and play with their own toys, right? Bleach, sodium hypochlorite, which is the most common and the most cost-effective disinfectant. This can be utilized, to do your cleaning, right? And in terms of ensuring that you use an appropriate strength, right? We recommend that if you're using the bleach, you buy the bleach that is, the strength, most of those bleach that are sold in the supermarkets and shops, 5% bleach, right? 5% sodium hypochlorite, right? And it should not be used in that full strength. Use it in that full strength, you're going to damage surfaces and you're going to damage your hands also. And some persons think that the stronger it is, the more effective. No, right? It creates more problems when you use it too strong, right? It is recommended for surfaces that you use of 0.5%. 0.5% is actually, a dilution of a 1 in 10. That means you're going to add 9 parts, of water to 1 part of bleach. And here we give a sample as to how you can, come to the proper dilution. Depending on what about the strength of the bleach, there's a way to bring it down to 5%. All right. So this is a formula that can be used. Whatever is the strength of the bleach you purchase, the formula to obtain the dilution you need is shown below, right? So whatever the strength is a 5% bleach, you're going to divide by 0.5. When you divide 5 by 0.5, you get 10, right? So what that is saying to you, right, is that you are now going to minus 1 from the 10. The one at the minus would represent the bleach itself, the sodium hypochlorite. So you have 1 part of bleach to 9 parts of water. So when you divide 5 by 0.5, you get 10. You just minus 1 from the 10, right? And that 1 would represent the bleach, right? So 1 part of bleach to 9 parts of water. 1 part of bleach in 9 parts of water give you 1 in 10, right? Right. So if you use it stronger than that, right, then you may run into problems, right? If it is a 6% bleach that you buy, when you divide it by 0.5, you're going to get 12. You minus 1 from it, right? You're going to get out 1 part to 11, 1 in 11. But most bleach is 0.5. All right, so let us work with the 0.5 bleach, right? Bulk bleach, if you're buying bulk bleach, then as I said, they would have to verify that it is verify the strength, so you can calculate your dilution. All right, so you do that for your cleaning, right? Symptomatic cases. So although we do all we are doing, we still can have cases, right? We still can have cases occurring in our school. So we need to identify by screening and know the case definition, right? The symptoms, normally the case definition relates to, the symptoms that you're looking for, the coughing and the sneezing, anything that resembles any respiratory illness, we have to suspect, COVID, especially in these times, right? So you screen and you identify symptoms, right? Then you're going to isolate or separate the child, right? Separate the child from others, right? It is recommended that you give the child a surgical mask and separate them and put them in an isolation area or a separated area, right? Where they'll be waiting, right? To be collected. While they are waiting, resting, they can be given something to drink, right? Well, painkillers are not recommended you're not to give children. This is a bit more for adults, not for early childhood, because but for adults, they can make their decision in taking pain tablets and all of that. But teachers are not recommended, are not advised to treat children, right? Unless you're going to take them to the doctor and the doctor make that decision, right? But giving them fluid, and so on is quite okay, right? But no treatment unless that is something that is, unless permission is given, by the parents or so. Then you have to inform family and the health department, right? Or the health department, right? In order to, the family members can come for the child. They don't have to wait until school dismiss and come for the child so the child can return home. And you have to log all relevant information. So when a child goes to the isolation area, you need to indicate, the time, right? You need to indicate what symptoms you recognize the child was suffering from, right? You need also to indicate anything out of the ordinary that has occurred, right? So that when parents come, you can just let them know what you did, right? All right, so it is important that you inform family as soon as possible. Log all relevant information, right? So the isolation area, you need to have a book to record everything, right? The time when the child took sick, the symptoms, right? And whatever you give to the child, right? Isolation area should be adequately ventilated, right? Clean after caring for a staff or student, because it's not just student can use the isolation area, right? Easy to be disinfected. That's why for the isolation area, you can have just chairs and desks. I know it was recommended that you have beds, but subsequent to that, it was mentioned that even tents can be used, and you won't be putting a bed under a tent, right? So you can also in the isolation area just have desks and chairs, because that is also acceptable, right? Because the objective is also to keep the child or the person, separated from others, right? So isolation area can have desks and chairs, things that can be easily cleaned, right? And have the children, if more than one person there, have them separated just the same. Okay? Equipped with personal protective equipment, gown, gloves, medical masks, and face shield if necessary. Equipped with means of communication. The child has a phone, can also communicate with their parents and so on. Isolation tents, as I mentioned, right? The tent should be, if you're using a tent and not necessarily a room, right? The tent can be established, as I mentioned. Should be, as I mentioned, an all-in-one tent, right? All-in-one design, and not one that requires a lot of assembly of several parts, right? Should be able to accommodate at least 2 individuals with a 6 feet distancing. Chairs, desks, or small tables should be provided, as I mentioned, that can be utilized, right? The tent should be provide protection from the elements, such as rain and direct sunlight, right? Toilet and hand wash facilities should be in close proximity, right? So tents can be used if you do not have a room for isolation, right? We have here also that comorbid staff or students, right? As you know, some schools have the blended approach where some persons are in school while some learning online, right? should be persons who are comorbid should be allowed to access the learning from home or work from home option. Well, it all depends on what the facility that the school has, right? Most schools add the internet, internet learning, teaching by internet. But for children who may have been not able to go to school, it is encouraged that that even if they can't come, that they still can access the internet to continue their learning. This may be more challenging now, since there's no full face-to-face. And if there's full face-to-face, I don't see schools having both internet and full face-to-face. So this may not be very relevant now, since full face-to-face has resumed. All right, let me just touch on the antigen tests, right? Antigen tests is one of those tests that is frequently referred to as a rapid test, which is a test that is done, to identify whether we are infected or not. This test detects protein fragments specific to the coronavirus, right? It can be done in a clinic, doctor's office, or hospital, right? And this is a less expensive test if you're going to travel, and all of that. A lot of persons have to do a test before they go, right? And you can get this test done in 15 minutes, right? But the point with this test, it is very good in telling you that you're positive. It is not very accurate when it comes to, identify when you are negative. Let me just go to the antigen test. Can get you results very quickly, but the results may not always be accurate, right? Rapid tests are considered most effective in patients who is having symptoms. So when you have symptoms, it identifies, it is very effective and accurate when you have symptoms, because it will tell you that you are positive, right? But you can get false negative, right? Whenever you use a rapid test, you can end up with false negative. It can be positive, but it gives you a false negative. The gold standard test, right, is a PCR test, right? Polymerase chain reaction, right? This test actually detects the RNA, which is a ribonucleic acid or genetic material that is specific to the virus and can detect the virus within days of infection, even those who have no symptoms. So even if a person is asymptomatic, this test, right, can tell you whether or not you are infected. Right? It is more expensive, but it is effective for both, whether you are symptomatic or not. Right? The test can be done in a clinic, hospital, or even in your car. Right? Turnaround time is longer, generally 2 to 3 days, right? And it ranges, right? But results can be had in 24 hours also if there is need for rapid results. When demand is high, results can take even weeks. Right? Mm-hmm. All right. The objectives of the vaccination program. The vaccination program is still ongoing, right? And schools is one of the institutions that are specially targeted, right? Because in order to protect our students from coming down, to reduce the deaths, the objective is to reduce the deaths and disease burden in Jamaica caused by COVID-19 pandemic, right? And to secure the continuous functioning of essential services and to reduce socio-economic disruption. So those are the objectives of the vaccination program, right? And in Jamaica, the percentage of persons vaccinated has not been great. It is still in the 20s in terms of the overall percentage, and it is still concerning to the government. So we see here that right at the bottom here, workers in early childhood and educational institutions are one of the priority groups, and this is still not, they have not taken up this fully. So we do hope that the program will continue and more persons will be vaccinated. All right, so we must be guided by the Ministry of Health and Wellness as we continue to go through, this pandemic. We are thankful that the positivity rate has gone down, and it has been, in single digits for a good while. And we do hope that it will eventually go to zero. And that is what we are looking forward to. So with that, I have come to the end of the presentation, and we hope that, you have at least learned something or reminded of something, because what I've gone through is something that you have been, you have been hearing about and you have been learning about all along. So a lot of this could be just revision for some of you. So with that, I bring this presentation to, to a close, and we'll have Mr. Kelly, who will come to deal with the more specifically with early childhood operations and the responsibilities of of early childhood stakeholders. So Ms. Nicole, we are now going to go to, I'm going to stop sharing as we your flash drive.
Okay, I'm sure you have learned a lot from Mr. Graham. And our second speaker, Mr. Kelly, is here to do his presentation.
Presentation.
Which one?
Just put the president politics. Which one? That's a very good.
Okay, so we're back. So your second presenter will be Mr. Kelly, another inspector, public health inspector in the parish of St. Catherine. I'm sure.
Good afternoon to the teachers, most male, most female, but I get to understand that there are males there, so I'm sending special big up to the males because males are fundamental in the Jamaican economy in the sense that they are the breadwinner, they are the leader, and they should take the rightful place in society that the male, younger males can follow their footsteps and do the correct in the society. That Jamaica will be a very interesting and happy place to be. All right, I am Anthony Kelly, Public Health Inspector. I'm in the parish of St. Catherine. What I understand is that I am communicating to the 14 parishes of Jamaica. So therefore, I want to come as clearly as possible that everyone can understand what I'm putting forward. The ECIs are vital to the future development and growth of Jamaica's economy, whereby the Ministry of Health and Wellness and the St. Catherine Department are in collaboration to ensure that the public health and ECI standards are adhered to and practiced by all preparatory schools and daycare centers. It is imperative that all ECI's practitioners should be cognizant of these standards and continue to teach, nurture the young minds, as well as uphold these criteria so that Jamaica in the future will become a first world country. Early childhood institution, a Jamaican situation here, very beautiful. 12 candidates are critical that most teachers are familiar with. It's not any stranger to them. Staffing, development, and educational programs, interaction, interrelationships with children, physical environment, indoor, outdoor, equipment, furnishing, and supplies, health, nutrition, safety, child rights, child protection, and equality, interactions with parents and community members, administration, and finance. These are very fundamental to the development of the early childhood institution. Lacking of these will cause the program not to reach the objective. So in a sense, we need all 12 of these to be input in the institution that the children can get what they deserve. Rationale. Children will benefit most from an early childhood program when they are healthy. Children need to be taught healthy practices by direct instruction and example displayed by the teachers, parents, caregivers, community members, and other personnel. Physical environment, spacious ground, but in this situation is when we did not have COVID with us. Now we have COVID. So in terms of the children there under the tree there, on the chairs and chairs, they should be in this reality now, 3 feet distance from each other. The chair should be placed 3 feet distant from each other to prevent the likelihood of transmission of infection like the COVID-19. But the environment is very spacious and it's very beautiful. It's a Jamaican situation. Dining room is a similar situation in Jamaica children. They're having their meal there. But the thing is, for the present situation, they should be 3 feet away from each other. So for the table itself, the possibility maybe you have only 2 persons around the table, and that table should be 3 feet from the other table. This is a classroom in compliance with the spacing requirements at that time. For now, it should be 3 feet between the desks and chair, that the infection cannot be passed from one student to another, and the students should be wearing their masks, right? And this is a napping era for the younger ones. And the same thing that apply in terms of the napping era. Right? I'm seeing here just one bed inside the napping era here. But sometimes in reality, they use mat to put on the floor where the child can lay on the mat. But in that situation, right, the place should be clean and disinfected, right? And they should be possible 3 feet away from each other. And they should be monitored closely to see what is happening. And we do not want anyone of them to exhibit these symptoms and pass on to another person or child. This is the nursing area where they have the cribs and they have the toys inside there. This will be a next situation where you have the cribs 3 feet apart. Likewise with the toys should be clean and disinfected or sanitized. All right, and each child or baby should be in one crib, and the person, the caregiver, can easily monitor them and to see what is happening, which is fundamental. Gate outreach of children. This is a situation where the gate lock there is outreach of children. So there's no likelihood for them to get off the compound and get themselves in trouble because it's out of reach of the child. And in a situation like this, the practitioner will constantly monitor them to ensure their safety in the environment. Fire extinguisher, which is fundamental to the institution, the building structure, where it should be serviced on a yearly basis to ensure that it is workable. Likewise, each person within the institution, the practitioner, should be able to use the fire extinguisher in case of a fire. In terms of fire tool, they should be certified by the fire brigade department and have their fire certificate in conspicuous place, that when the inspector comes at those persons who is doing monitoring of institution, they like to see it and know that they are adhering to the standard. This is a socket, electrical socket, where it should be covered at all times to prevent the little ones from putting small object inside which can cause them to get electrocuted. So at no time it should be left uncovered. This absence of child privacy, this is a situation where you have more than one water closet in the institution. But the thing is there's no partition, right? So there will be no privacy for the child using the water closet or the bowl. So this is a no-no situation. There should be separation, and the child should have his or her privacy. All right, this is a next institution here for the child institute for the children. Jamaican situation. This is a outdoor playhouse where the child can play or the children can play. But in a COVID situation now, I don't know what exists there in terms of playing, because now although school is on break, I don't know what is the situation in terms of playing. I don't know if the practitioner monitor them, because not all the while I want them to get too close to each other, but playing can still take place because it is fundamental for the growth and development. And also it will reduce the stress level on them, make them be more relaxed, comfortable, can think positively and do positive things amongst themselves. Because many of them are absent from school for 2 years. And that is also reflecting on them in the society, what is happening in terms of the high level of stress, where if some fight, not normally the small ones, you're talking the primary and high school and so forth, and sometimes it results in death, and we do not want that to take place. We want them to have a good environment where they can play and learn more and develop and share what they have. Okay, outdoor play areas, we have the swing, the seesaw, and you have a next one here. I don't quite know what it is, but I know it's for the small ones. But one thing I could say to you in terms of the swing should be 7 feet away from the fence, right? And there should be wood shaving there, or sand, material there, that if the child fall out of the swing, the child will not hurt him or herself, right? In terms of the seesaw, it's a similar situation, and there's also a slide there, right? There should not be any sharp edge on those slides and the seesaw to injure children when playing and such. And also you take in consideration that is a COVID situation, so possibility that every 15 minutes are what time is possible for you to do the cleaning and disinfection would be necessary to prevent any transmission. It's not only COVID, but other bacteria or viruses can cause problems. So Graham spoke about the foot and mouth disease that is very, very infectious, that can pass easily. So when you do cleaning and disinfection, you're not only preventing COVID, but you are preventing other illnesses from the children getting infected and passing on to each other. So it's very important that there's a program or there's a schedule set up to effectively do the cleaning and the disinfection of these playing equipments. We spoke about the above 12 standards already, so we can pass that. Health standard, the 4 critical aspects: health promotion and preventive health measures, institution and personal hygiene practices, cleaning and sanitation schedule, and management of infectious disease and other illnesses and injuries. These are fundamental. Special attention should be paid in respect to health promotion to ensure that each child is doing what is necessary and also is getting the necessary health care that is necessary for them, right? And also to prevent other illnesses from affecting in terms of their vaccination, that they are supposed to be vaccinated, mandated at all, and should be vaccinated before they are admitted into the school or the institution. Command the personal hygiene, so that is practice, should be practiced on a daily basis, mean at home, at school, wherever, to ensure that things are going in the right direction in terms of their health. I spoke about cleaning and sanitization in terms of the equipments or the playing toys, and management of infectious diseases such as foot and mouth disease, COVID-19, and other diseases that possibly can affect children. ECIs shall take steps that are necessary to ensure that the following are in place for our children and staff: the health, sanitation, nutrition, and disaster plan. I just want to speak on a few of these. Health, what is health? I know that everybody knows what is health, but I'm going to give you a definition of health from WHO. Health is a state of the complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and a mere absence of disease or infirmity. So in terms of mental health, I'm going to give you one for me. Mental health, because that is a critical thing right now for the students and teachers. It's not only the students alone, it's teachers, the entire Jamaica society. Because if we have the pandemic, it simply means that a lot of things that we want to do, we're not getting to do them. So it can impact upon our mental health, cause us to be unstable, cause us to do things that normally we would not do. So it is nice and it is commendable that it is going down, and some of the restriction is taken from us that we can go now and interact, but still bear it in mind that there are certain standards that we still have to adhere to prevent ourselves from catching the COVID, because the COVID is not a good thing. It kills a lot of persons, and it's made a lot of persons sick. A lot of persons can tell of their experiences and so forth. So mental health is the state of the well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So it is fundamental that our mental health is checked. I think some time ago, a medical center is set up for the staff of the St. Catherine Department, where they can come, and we have medical doctors that can see to them, talk with them, physical examination and so forth. Likewise, the mental health, just to ensure that those who are providing the medical care is also cared for too. Right? So I want everybody to be in the arena. Nobody should be left out, that we can have a better society. In terms of sanitation is critical. In terms of the school, in terms of the home, in terms of the environment. So that area should be kept as clean as possible, free from any object that will cause danger to the children, to the adults, to anyone that play and work in that environment. Nutrition is critical for person's development, because when I speak of nutrition, I speak of the 6 food groups that you should include in your meal to ensure that you get the necessary nutrients that can promote growth, good health, and strength that you can learn at school, all right? And you can do meaningful things within the society and make a valuable contribution to the human race. So the food should include minerals, vitamins, carbohydrates, fats, protein, and water. And some of these food that will give you all these should be fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, whole grains, legumes, dairy products, and lean meat. So in terms of food, one should be quite knowledgeable, knowing what they are eating to ensure that they get a nutrient out of the food to promote growth and development of the body, especially the mind. The nervous system needs good food, nutrients, right? Disaster plan. You should have a disaster plan, and that disaster plan should be in conjunction with the National Disaster Plan or the parish council of your parish. So you should liaise with the parish council, right? In terms of your disaster plan, to know the different areas or different institutions that we will use in terms of a disaster, for example, hurricane, earthquake, fire, and so forth, right? So it's very important that you have a disaster plan. Likewise, you can teach the student, likewise the teachers, right, in response to disaster like hurricane and fire, earthquake, and so forth. Right? It's very important, you know. We don't know when we have a season when these things will come around, but not all the while when the season comes, it hits us. So we are very thankful for that, because disaster is not thing that is a good thing. It's a bad thing, right, for any population. It always sets it back, right? Management of sick and injured children, provision of sick bay, separation of the sick and children. So you should have a sick bay regarding sick person. I heard Mr. Graham spoke about the isolation area. So I'm not going to talk much about isolation. So, but I was saying that if you have a sick bay, you should have a isolation area likewise for the school. Sometimes it's very difficult for the ECI institutions to have a isolation area, right? Because sometimes the funding is not there, and you know that the caregivers are very concerned. They want to open the school, they want the school going on and so forth. And some of them are very tired of being at home and so forth. So it is important that you have a isolation area. So you work along with the public health inspector. Many of them are very flexible in terms of the isolation area. They know the practicality of Jamaica. They know the Jamaican situation. So they know what is to be applied and how it can be applied, right? How workable it could be in the society. Medical records inclusive of date and time of the illness or injury of each child. So it is speaking of child that are injured on the compound or in the institution, and you take in a record of the child, name, time, and so forth. Response of the staff to illness or injury, medication record, immunization record, all these should be recorded and be at the school, right? So it's very important to keep accurate record of each child. Sanitation plan shall provide policies and procedures to ensure hygiene use of the kitchen, toilet, bedding, and other facilities. I want to also mention, so when you come on to the kitchen, there's a standard from the Ministry of Health. Likewise, a standard from the St. Catherine Department. So we have two standards that we apply to the kitchen, in terms of the kitchen and the wider area of the building, right? So it is very important that the institution made this standard before a certificate can be given in terms of the kitchen, including food anglers, food angling, and washing. Staff who prepare and angle food should be separate from those who clean and change diaper. That is very true. So that staff should be different from those who angling food and preparing diaper or changing diaper, right? So it's very important. Usage of the toilet facility. Supervision of the children when using the toilet facility and washing of hands. Critical. The facility should be child-friendly where it is easily used by the children. What we are speaking of in that respect is that the water closet should not be a adult water closet. It should be built, the smaller ones I'm speaking of, for the children. And the wash and basin, the set is a smaller one, where the child can easily access the wash and basin and wash hands. So normally you should have your soap, your liquid soap, right, and running water for the child to use the facility to ensure that the hands are clean properly. Cleaning and disinfection of the toilet fixtures and other areas should be done frequently, such as wash and basin, the toilet seat, door handles, floor and toys. All right. It is, as I said, very important, critical, in the sense that they should have a schedule, a cleaning schedule from Monday to Friday, right? So someone should be specifically for the cleaning. So when the inspector comes, the inspector can look at that schedule and know which area is scheduled to clean, the type of disinfectant they use, the soap, right, and the person who will do the necessary cleaning, and how often the cleaning, in a COVID situation, it should be done frequently. You should possible every 1 hour, every half an hour, right? In terms of the school situation. In some places that I've been to, for example, the bank, it seems as each person sits on one seat and get up off of the seat, then they apply the disinfectant to it, right? Or the sanitizer, right? So in terms of the toilet facility, the door handlers and knobs and toys, and so you have to develop this schedule that these are cleaned frequently to prevent the spread of germs or bacteria, right? Likewise, COVID-19. Side diapers, storing a bin with a closed lid. Closed lid, nice. Bins used only for this purpose. Bins should not be accessible to children. So away from children. But in terms of closed lid, what I would say in terms of this bin, which is a receptacle, I would say a foot operated one, because I don't want persons to at each time you put in the diaper, you have to take up the cover in your hand and then put that. No, I want this little foot operated where you just touch, press it, use the foot and press it and then lay it home and you put in the diaper in it. So less touching, so less styling of your hands, but your hands still have to wash, right? But I think that would be the most appropriate thing to use in terms of the bin. All right, physical environment. Children need a user-friendly environment for the efficient delivery of the programs that are geared to stimulate all aspects of their development. That is true. Very, very true. So that should be provided. Temperature and ventilation that exceeds in 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Provision of cooling mechanism. That means you could have AC in the building, providing for the teachers and the children. Those institutions that can afford it can put in AC. But one thing I would have to tell you is that you must have a program, a maintenance program for your AC to ensure that the AC don't break down, right? And you're not getting the required service that you need. So those who can afford, those institutions who can afford it can put in AC. But one thing I say, you can put in fans. Fans is much cheaper. Right, and fans are very effective. Right now, I'm looking at some fans on ceiling fans. and they are very, very effective, right? The ventilation in this room is excellent, right? In terms of lighting and here, very, very excellent. Windows space not less than 10% of the floor space. Example, 20 feet by 30 feet room needs 6 windows, 4 feet by 2.5 feet, not exposed to air pollutants. So where the building is constructed, it should not expose to air pollutants, but well, that sometimes becomes difficult, but it is important where the building is established, constructed, or erected, right? Should not expose air pollution to affect the teachers and the students. Lighting room should be adequately lit using natural artificial ventilation, artificial lighting, 540 lux or more. So when you have adequate lighting within the institution, then you will see that students do not come down with headaches and early impure eyesight and so forth. Within dull light and so, seeing in dull light strain your eyes and impact of your vision, make you have to get glasses at an early stage. And also getting glasses sometimes is very expensive, so not everybody can afford it. So if you can prevent from getting eye sick, why not try and prevent it? It will be very good for everyone. Food storage, protecting foods from rodents, roaches, and other insects. Store food separate from all other non-food items. Storage of cleaning agents, store chemicals properly and out of reach of children. All chemicals must be proper with labor. Personally, there is a new additional criteria to the cleaning agents. Instead of your soap, the disinfectant, there should be an area like a cupboard where you put them away from the children, and the cupboard should be labeled. Likewise, on the cupboard, there should be a label to indicate how the disinfection should be used. Just a reminder to those persons who use a disinfectant frequently for the ear knobs, the frequent touch hearers, and so forth. Because in terms of bleach, some person overuse the bleach, which is not cost effective. They must use the right proportion of bleach to water to get the effectiveness. Mr. Grant spoke about that. So I hope person will adhere to what he said, grasp it readily, and practice it. Water supply and storage pipe, running potable water in sufficient quantity at the facility, adequate potable water and storage for contingency. Well, that should be very, very good for the facility. While we are saying that although you may be connected to the National Water Commission supply, you should have storage facility, right, for the number of students and teachers that will be in the institution, in the building, that in case Water Commission one is off, then you still can carry an activity in a safe environment until the restoration of the National Water Commission water. Wash and basins are child size, and adapted to provide easy access to children. That means the size of the wash and basin should be where the child can easily access the water to wash his errands. At least one wash and station for every 40 children. Provision of liquid soap at all wash and station. Supervision of hand washing activity. Staff to ensure that hands of the children are washed properly. Because sometimes the children, if you don't monitor them or to see what they are doing, they just do some hurry to come and have the meal. So you have to ensure, teach them how to wash them and properly monitor them. Staff should practice proper person and washing procedures. ECI premises should be fenced adequately, safe outdoor play area. Children should have no access and safe area. Play devices are kept in good condition. Solid waste properly managed and collected on a regular basis. I think the solid waste is a problem to Jamaica. And I think this is a problem to Jamaica, where it's this garbage stacked in the skit, flowing over on the ground and so forth. Simply means it is not collected on a regular basis. So you find that flies, other insects, dogs, and other animals may savage the garbage. So that should not be. In case of, in terms of the institution, that does not exist, right? But I'm just letting you know that the situation in Jamaica is not a pretty sight in some years. Sometimes citizens, lit them and then burn and cause problem. It shouldn't be. That's the next factor that affects the environment, ozone layer, and that contribute to warming of the atmosphere or the rise in the tide and cause flooding. Anyway, let us continue. All ECI teachers and assistants are to possess a valid food handler's permit. ECI operators and employers will not pay for their food handler's permit, while other categories will pay. I got this. This is a new thing. I think this was in the pipeline for a very long time, where the cabinet has given you ACI operators a waiver, whereby you not have to pay that money now for the food handler's permit, the police license and medical record. The Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Health, and Ministry of Education will absorb those costs. But it is in terms of to allow the operators to register, right? Those operators, those are the child practitioners that are doing the work for them to register. Based on if they have the failure to license, then the correspondent that sees that you have to pay the money. I don't know how that will work out. So I was saying what I've read, what has emailed to me, and I'll pass on information because a lot of practitioners in St. Catherine was looking forward for that for a very, very long time, and it is with us now. So I think all towns will be up. I think each person will be happy about that. I don't know what stands for the rest of the parishes, but I know for St. Catherine, right, when it was not enforced, they did not pay $500, pay $200. Now there will be no money charged for the food handler's permit. So that's a positive thing for the practitioners, early childhood practitioners, and that is excellent. ECIs are required to make requests for inspection to the St. Catherine Health Department. Inspection reports are to be given by the public health inspector upon completion of the inspection. Right, yes, that is true. ECI operators are required to present to the Early Childhood Commission with this report to facilitate the granting of a permit to operate. Right? So Major public health problems identified must be dealt with expeditiously. ECIs that fail to address critical public health concerns within reasonable time will be recommended for closure. I don't think ECIs operators would want this to happen to them. So you know what? I know that they're going to ensure that they meet the standard. Whatever the public health tell them to do, they will ensure that it is done and done readily. That when the public health inspector return, he can only smile and say, well done. Early Child Commission will be informed. So adequate building space, sick bay for children, we spoke about that already, and the isolation area. I should also say, in respect to the sick bay, is one bed, is one child to a bed, right? And one child to a mat, right? And that there should not be more than one child on the bed, right? If you want more than one child, you have to have more beds inside the sick bay, all right? Food storage and preparation area should be adequate. Storage area for equipment and material, classroom, administration area, napping and dining area, all these should be adequate. Crawling space for the infants. Crawling a form of exercise for the infant. I don't know if they will allow them to crawl now, right? Because of the COVID situation. After that, the COVID situation is going down. The numbers are going down, but it's still there with us. And the institution that I've been to, in terms of early childhood institution, where they have infants and so forth, they have a rigorous cleaning program. The staff are handball. I did the inspection and I found that everything was quite okay. In terms of the isolation, in terms of the two instruments, they actually meet the requirements. Right, and I was very pleased of that. Right, very, very pleased. As you know, not all facilities have the resources to provide the necessary things to ensure that they meet the standard. So when the facility meet the standard, you know, you have to be happy, right? Because it seems as if your advice did not fall on deaf ears, and then take it very seriously. And I'm happy about that. General requirements: premises properly fenced with gate lock out of reach of children. I show that, I illustrate that. Not less than 20 square feet indoor free space for each child. So each child within the institution should have 20 square feet. I want to say, yes, 20 square feet, yes. Right, so that easily can work out. The most children by 20 or no, the square feet are the area that you want for the number of children. Newly constituted ECIs must make provision for physical challenge. That is true. Not only the ramp alone, but depends if that child is in a wheelchair and so forth. Sometimes many need some railings or some grab bars within the institution to enable that child to move readily in the facility and to access education, and not to make that child feel as if he or she is left out of the institution, right? So it's very important. So early child institution is a very costly thing, you know, and that is the base of the nation, right? So money must be found to spend in that area to enable the future generation, right, can have a very comfortable life and a nice environment and a prosperous Jamaica. Babies under 2 years old should be separated from older children, correct? A minimum of 1 water class for every 20 children. Provision of both sexes. I just want to mention to you, in some areas that I've done inspection, I realized that both sexes are in the same building have to go through the same entrance and so forth, right? And I think that is a wise thing. If you are giving a grant in an institution to the early childhood, right? I don't think both sexes should be in the same apartment. There will be a separation. I want to inculcate the right principle in the young minds when they understand from now, because when we were children growing up, the male sanitary convenience and the female sanitary were not together. So they should not be together, right? They should be separated. I don't know where they get this from. I don't like the shortcut. We want to stick to the protocol, stick to the standard, and bring up a well-educated and knowledgeable children, right? Where I can say to the smaller ones, so that is what we were grown and we were brought up with, right? And you can see the logics in it, right? So we don't want anybody to move on it because they're giving us something. Yeah, bungalows in a one building and say, yes, no, we want the right and proper things. I've seen that. So I'm not speaking that whenever you're getting or they were donating something in terms of building to, the bathroom should be separate, not close to each other like that, right? Separate toilet facility for staff. Staff should have their own toilet facility. Provision of child size water closet or adaptation of adult size water closet. Provision of a diaper change area for children under 2 years. Building structure, roof should not leak. Ceiling should be in good condition. Floor, solid show, no cracks or holes. Kept clean, spilled clean and disinfected immediately. Walls painted the light colors and kept clean. Well, thanks for your attention. I hope you have learned something from it. And when you have learned this, I wanted to implement it in the institution. So when I come, and any public health come, and any person that monitoring early childhood institution, they can see whereby the teachers, right, the management are abiding by the standards set by the government. All right, thanks very much.
They're waiting to get that in this code.
Good afternoon again, everyone. I'm sure you have learned a lot. And I'm going to place in the chat the evaluation link. I'm going to ask you, I'm seeing person saying, thank you, Mr. Kelly. Lovely presentation, very informative, thank you. And I'm sure you learned a lot, or you were reminded of some of the things that you are supposed to be doing within the early childhood institution. So before you go, I'm going to place in the chat the evaluation link. This is a complete evaluation. We want to hear your feedback. We need to have record to show and proof our stakeholders that, we have conducted this training and these are the feedback that we receive from our trainers. All right. So I'm going to place it in the chat now. Evaluation links. Can stop typing now. Thank you. Well said, Mr. Kelly. And I'm going to post the evaluation link now. So there you go. The evaluation link is there. Please complete the evaluation. I must say thank you to the entire team for your amazing and informative presentation. We have been reminded of the best practices. So they are applauding our presenters. So thank you guys. Please to complete your evaluation link before you log off. And have yourself a wonderful evening and a wonderful evening and a peaceful Easter holiday. And I pray you have get some time to rest, well-deserved rest. So, and the evaluation link is again placed in the chat. Please complete the evaluation link before you go. Thank you, guys. Somebody's asking why is only 300 persons. We had a live stream on YouTube. Unfortunately, we had the persons who were unable to join the Zoom platform. They were on the YouTube platform. Okay. We had over 200. Thank you. Some persons who are trying to complete the evaluation link, they're having issue. We're gonna fix that one before we go. Let me contact the IT department and solve that issue right now. Okay, there's a new evaluation link in the chat. You can go ahead and complete your evaluation now. Thank you.